Admiral Jake Morrison walked slowly into the communication room deep inside Earth's military headquarters. The walls were covered with screens showing distant stars and alien worlds. He had done this same walk 3 times before, and each time, the aliens had laughed at him. Today would be different. Today would be the last time. The holographic display came to life, showing 12 different alien beings from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant insects, others like walking crystals, and a few resembled underwater creatures with tentacles. They all had one thing in common. They thought humans were stupid and weak. Morrison wore his best uniform with all his medals. His gray hair was cut short, and his face showed the lines of a man who had seen many battles. Behind him stood Dr. Lisa Carter, Earth's smartest scientist who studied aliens. She held a tablet full of data that the aliens would not want to hear. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Morrison began, his voice clear and strong. I come before you today with urgent news. Our space stations at the edge of the galaxy have found something terrible. Huge ships are coming toward us from beyond the stars. These ships match what our scientists call void harvesters. The alien from Zephyr Prime made a sound like breaking glass. This was how his people laughed. Admiral Morrison, you humans speak of children's stories again? The void harvesters are not real. They are tales we tell to scare young ones. Dr. Carter stepped forward. She was a small woman with dark hair pulled back tight. Her eyes were serious behind her glasses. Council members, we have been watching the edge of space for 8 months. Our computers have done millions of calculations. The math does not lie. These ships will reach the outer planets in less than 2 years. The Altarian delegate raised 4 of his 6 arms. He looked like a giant spider wearing robes. Your species is very young, humans. We have ruled space for thousands of years. If such danger was real, we would have met it long ago. Morrison felt his jaw tighten. Standing behind him was Commander Ben Torres, the head of Earth's Special Military Forces. Torres had seen the secret videos from their spy drones. The enemy fleet was real, and it was bigger than anything anyone could imagine. The Centauri Prime Minister spoke next. She looked almost human, except for her blue skin and silver eyes. Admiral Morrison, your people have brought these warnings to us 3 times. Each time, nothing happens. Perhaps you are seeing things that are not there. Minister Zal Morrison replied, our detection systems are the most advanced in the galaxy. We may be young, but we are not blind. The Aquarian delegate made bubbling sounds through his translator. Young species often fear the dark. You see monsters where there are only shadows. Dr. Carter touched her tablet, and new images appeared in the air above them. They showed massive shapes moving between the stars. The shapes were dark and seemed to eat light itself. These are not shadows. These are real ships. Each one is the size of a small moon. It's a vegan representative who looked like a tall plant, with many eyes swayed back and forth. Even if your readings are correct, why should we trust human military advice? Your people have been in space for less than 100 years. Morrison had heard enough. Because we prepare for the worst while you sleep peacefully. Because we study every threat while you ignore danger. Because when the darkness comes, we will be ready. El Zephyrian delegate made his glass-breaking laugh again. Ready? What can one small world do against forces that could destroy galaxies? Torres stepped forward for the first time. He was a big man with scars on his hands and face. His eyes were cold as winter. More than you think. The council members looked at each other. Some made sounds of confusion. Others seemed annoyed. The meeting had gone on for 30 minutes. Morrison could see they had already made up their minds. The Altarian Prime spoke for all of them. We have heard your warnings, Admiral Morrison. We have studied your data. The Galactic Council votes to dismiss these claims as unfounded fears. Your request for joint military preparation is denied. Morrison nodded slowly. It expected this. Answer very well, but remember this day, council members. Remember that Earth warned you. The holographic display went dark. The alien faces disappeared, leaving Morrison alone with his staff in the quiet room. Dr. Carter looked sad. Torres looked angry. Morrison just looked tired. Sir, what are our orders? Asked Captain Amy Rodriguez, who had been quiet during the Meeting. She commanded one of Earth's newest warships. Morrison walked to the window that showed the night sky above Earth. Millions of stars twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, death was coming toward them all. Send the message to all human colonies and military bases. Operation Lazarus begins now. Torres raised an eyebrow. All phases, sir. All phases, Commander. The aliens have made their choice. They want to face this threat alone. But we will not abandon the innocent people of the galaxy, even if their leaders are fools. Dr. Carter put down her tablet. Jake, are you sure about this? Once we start Lazarus, there's no going back. Morrison turned from the window. His eyes were hard now. Lisa, for 50 years we have been preparing for this war. We built secret bases, developed new weapons. We trained soldiers for battles the galaxy said would never come. The harvesters are real, and they are coming. If the Council won't listen to warnings, maybe they will listen to results. The room fell silent. Outside, Earth turned slowly in space, a small blue world that the galaxy saw as young and weak. But hidden in asteroid belts and secret bases, humanity's true strength waited. Ships that could move like ghosts through space, weapons that could crack planets. Soldiers who had trained their whole lives for a war that everyone else said was impossible. The galaxy had ignored Earth's warning. Soon they would see what humans could do when everything they loved was threatened. The Void Harvesters were coming, but they had never faced anything like humanity before. 18 months had passed since the Galactic Council dismissed Earth's warnings. Captain Amy Rodriguez floated in her command chair aboard the UES Vengeance, watching her screens with growing horror. The ship drifted silently in the shadow of a dead moon, its engines cold and its lights dimmed to almost nothing. Before them stretched a sight that would haunt her dreams forever. Massive ships, each one the size of a city, moved between the planets like hungry sharks. These were the Void Harvesters, and they were doing exactly what Earth had predicted they would do. Captain, we're getting readings from the third planet, whispered Lieutenant Chris Murphy from his station. His voice was quiet because even in the vacuum of space, they all felt like the enemy might hear them. Rodriguez looked at her main screen. The planet below had once been called New Garden by the Altarian colonists who lived there. Green fields and blue oceans had covered its surface just yesterday. Now it was gray and dying. The harvester ships were pulling resources from the planet, like giant straws, sucking up everything that had once been alive. How many people lived there? Rodriguez asked. 40 million Altarians, Captain, plus about 2 million humans who worked in the farming colonies. Rodriguez closed her eyes for a moment. She remembered the Altarian delegate who had laughed at Admiral Morrison during that final council meeting. His people were dying now, and he probably still did not understand why. Ma'am, incoming transmission from Earth Command, Murphy reported. Put it through on secure channel. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on a small screen beside her chair. He looked older now, with more gray in his hair and deeper lines around his eyes. Behind him, Rodriguez could see the war room deep under the ice in Antarctica. Dozens of officers worked at stations covered with maps of the galaxy. Captain Rodriguez. What is your status? Morrison asked. We're observing harvester feeding operations in the Kepler system, sir. The enemy has 17 large vessels and maybe 50 smaller ones. They've already stripped 4 planets clean. New Garden is dying as we watch. What? Morrison nodded grimly. We've lost contact with 37 human colonies in the Outer Rim. Evacuation ships got most of our people out, but we couldn't save everyone. Rodriguez felt anger building in her chest. Sir, the colonies that refused evacuation, ... double quotes, are gone, Captain? The Johnson family on Kepler 7? The mining crews on Asteroid Base? Delta. 300,000 humans who thought the aliens would protect them. Morrison's voice was hard. They trusted the Galactic Council more than they trusted Earth. Orders, sir. Morrison leaned forward. Phase 1 of Operation Lazarus is complete. We've saved 2.3 million human lives by evacuating them before the harvesters arrived. But we're not done yet. The galaxy chose to ignore our warnings, but we won't let them face extinction alone, sir. Initiate Phase 2, Captain. Begin, Hunter-Killer. Operations immediately. Rodriguez smiled for the first time in days. It was not a nice smile. Yes, sir. Gladly. The transmission ended, and Rodriguez turned to her crew. You heard the Admiral, Murphy? Send the activation code to all units. Time to show these harvesters what humans can do. Across the galaxy, similar messages were being received by other human ships. They had been hiding for months, watching and waiting while the enemy destroyed world after world. The harvesters thought they were fighting primitive aliens who had never seen real war. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Deep in the asteroid belt of the Sol system, massive doors opened in what looked like ordinary rocks. The USS Retribution, humanity's largest warship, emerged from its hiding place. The ship was 3 kilometers long and packed with weapons that no alien had ever seen. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on its bridge, watching as her crew prepared for battle. "Admiral, all hunter-killer groups report ready," said Commander Danny. Right from the tactical station, Sullivan had been waiting for this moment for 20 years. She had helped design the ships that would fight this war. She had trained the crews who would face the darkness between the stars. Signal all units. Operation Lazarus Phase 2 is now active. Show them what Earth has been building. In the Proxima system, the Harvester fleet was stripping the last resources from a former Centauri colony when something impossible happened. A human ship appeared from nowhere and fired a single shot. The blast tore through a Harvester vessel, like it was made of paper. Before the enemy could react, the human ship vanished again. The Harvesters had never been attacked before. In 1,000 years of destroying galaxies, no one had ever fought back successfully. They tried to follow the human ship, but it was gone like smoke. Similar attacks were happening across 50 star systems. Human ships would appear, strike with deadly precision, and disappear before the enemy could respond. The Harvesters were learning that this galaxy was different. These humans were different. Captain Rodriguez watched through her ship's cameras as a Harvester vessel tried to chase the USS Phantom after it destroyed 3 enemy ships. The alien vessel was fast, but the human ship moved like it was dancing. It twisted between asteroids, used gravity wells to change direction, and fired weapons that seemed to bend space itself. "How are we doing this?" asked Lieutenant Murphy. "Our ships are smaller, and we have fewer weapons." Rodriguez pointed to her screen where human ships were working together like a pack of wolves. "Because we've been preparing for this war since before you were born, Chris. While the aliens enjoyed their peace, we studied every battle in history. We learned from every mistake. We built ships not just to fight, but to win." Dr. Patricia Hayes watched the battle reports from her command center on Earth. She was the mother of the Lazarus Project. The woman who had spent her life preparing humanity for this war. Around her, screens showed the locations of every human ship and every enemy vessel. "How many Harvester ships have we destroyed?" she asked her assistant. 47 confirmed kills in the first 6 hours, Doctor. No human losses." Hayes smiled, but there was no joy in it. They still don't understand what they're facing. The Harvesters think this is like every other galaxy they've conquered. Weak aliens who give up after the first attack. But we're not. Like the other aliens, are we? "No," Hayes said, watching as another Harvester ship exploded on her screen. "We're humans. We don't just fight back. We fight to win, no matter what it costs us." The war had begun, and already the galaxy was learning a new truth. Humanity was not the weak young species the aliens had dismissed. They were the children of a world where peace was earned through strength, where survival meant being ready for any threat. The Harvesters had destroyed 1,000 civilizations, but they had never faced humans before. Now they would learn why Earth's warnings should never have been ignored. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was very different from the last one. Instead of comfortable seats in a peaceful chamber, the alien leaders were hiding in bunkers and emergency shelters. Their proud civilizations were burning, and they were finally ready to listen to the humans they had once laughed at. Prime Minister Zal of the Centauri Republic appeared on the holographic display first. Her blue skin was pale with fear, and her silver eyes were wide with panic. Harvesters have destroyed 17 of our worlds. Our fleets cannot even slow them down. How is this possible? The Altarian delegate, the same spider-like being who had mocked Admiral Morrison, spoke with a shaking voice. They came from nowhere, just as the humans said they would. Our military couldn't touch them, but something else is happening. Harvesters are dying too. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan appeared on screen from the bridge of the UES Retribution. Her uniform was torn and burned from recent battles. Blood ran down her left cheek from a cut above her eye. But her voice was strong and clear when she spoke. Council members, humanity offers its help in defending your worlds. But there is one condition. All military command must be given to human leadership immediately. The same Zephyrian delegate, who had called human warnings children's stories, now begged desperately. Admiral Sullivan, my homeworld is under attack right now. 3 billion of my people will die without help. Please, we need your ships. Sullivan looked at him with cold eyes. You should have listened when we warned you 18 months ago. But humans don't abandon their allies, even when those allies called us fools. She turned to someone off screen. Activate the Prometheus protocol. Across the galaxy, something amazing began to happen. Human ships that had been hiding in empty space suddenly appeared near every major battle. These were not the small patrol boats the aliens had seen before. These were massive warships that seemed to bend the laws of physics. The UES Destroyer moved like a ghost through the vegan system, where Harvester ships were attacking the plant-like aliens' home world. Captain Tony Martinez stood on the bridge, watching his weapons officer prepare to fire. Sir, we have 17 enemy targets. Orders. Martinez smiled grimly. Fire everything. The destroyer's main guns shot beams of pure energy that cut through Harvester ships like they were made of paper. Missiles that existed in several dimensions at once struck targets that thought they were safe behind energy shields. The human ship moved too fast for the enemy to follow, striking from impossible angles. In the Aquarian home system, USS Phoenix used weapons that the water-breathing aliens had never seen before. The ship fired what looked like ordinary metal rods, but these rods moved at nearly the speed of light. When they hit Harvester vessels, the impact released more energy than nuclear bombs. Dr. Patricia Hayes watched all of this from Earth's hidden war room deep under the Antarctic ice. Around her, dozens of screens showed battles happening across the galaxy. Spoke calmly into her communication device. All units, remember your training. The Harvesters are not used to resistance. They expect their enemies to run or surrender. We do neither. The alien ambassadors who were still alive stared at their screens in shock. Human ships were not just fighting the Harvesters, they were winning. Ships that had seemed impossible to destroy were exploding under human weapons. Did your species become so good at war? Asked the Altarian Prime, his voice full of wonder and fear. Admiral Sullivan answered from her battle-damaged bridge. Because we never had the luxury of believing the universe was safe. Every human child learns that space is dangerous, that peace doesn't last, and that survival means always being ready to fight. Dr. Lisa Carter was working frantically in her mobile laboratory aboard the UES science vessel Darwin. She had been studying pieces of destroyed Harvester ships, and what she found made her blood run cold. Admiral Morrison, I need to speak with you immediately, she said over the secure channel. Morrison's face appeared on her screen. He was in Earth's command center, coordinating the battle across 50 star systems. What is it, Lisa? Sir, I've analyzed the Harvester technology. These aren't just alien invaders. They're the remains of civilizations that fought the Harvesters before and lost, The enemy converts defeated species into part of their army. Morrison's face went pale. Are you saying that every harvester ship contains the enslaved minds of people who once fought them? Exactly. The Zephyrians who disappeared 2,000 years ago. They're inside those ships now, forced to fight for their conquerors. This isn't just an invasion, it's recruitment. Morrison understood immediately. Then we can't just win this war, Doctor. You have to win it so completely that no harvester technology survives. Meanwhile, Colonel Ben Torres was leading ground forces on worlds that the harvesters had invaded but not yet stripped clean. His soldiers wore powered armor that made them stronger than any alien, and they carried weapons that could level city blocks. Move fast. Stay quiet. Hit hard. Torres told his troops as they prepared to assault a harvester processing center on the former Centauri colony of New Hope. Remember, every minute we delay means more civilians get converted into enemy soldiers. The human assault was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Torres and his men moved through the enemy base like deadly shadows, striking at vital systems and disappearing before the harvesters could respond. In 30 minutes, it destroyed a facility that had taken the enemy weeks to build. Captain Amy Rodriguez was commanding a fleet of 12 human ships in the Kepler system, where the war had begun. The same planets she had watched die were now battlegrounds where humanity fought to save what remained. Rodriguez to all units, she broadcast to her fleet. The enemy is trying to retreat with their harvested resources. Don't let them escape. Every ship they take means another world dies. Somewhere else. The human ships move like a pack of hunting wolves, surrounding the larger harvester vessels and attacking from all sides at once. Their weapons seem to know exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage. The aliens watching these battles were learning something that terrified them almost as much as the harvesters themselves. Humans were not just good at war, they were perfect at it. Every move was calculated. Every attack was planned. Every victory was earned through superior preparation and ruthless execution. Dr. Hayes received reports from across the galaxy. Human forces had destroyed over 300 harvester ships in just 1 week of fighting. The enemy was retreating from several systems, something that had never happened before in their 1,000-year history of conquest. But she knew this was only the beginning. The main harvester fleet was still coming, and when it arrived, the real test would begin. Humanity had shown they could fight these monsters, but could they win a war against an enemy that had destroyed entire galaxies? The galaxy was finally learning to respect Earth's warnings, but the lesson was being taught in fire and blood. The humans they had dismissed as young and weak were now their only hope for survival. And deep in space, it's moving toward the galactic core. The largest harvester fleet in history was preparing for a war unlike any they had ever fought. They had never faced humans before, and they were about to learn why that was a very dangerous mistake. 6 months had passed since the war began in earnest. The galaxy was covered in the wreckage of destroyed ships and the ashes of dead worlds. But for the first time in their 1,000-year history of conquest, the Void Harvesters were losing. General Rick Hayes stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the final assault on the Altarian homeworld below. His soldiers had been fighting for 72 hours straight to free the planet from harvester control. The same aliens who had laughed at human warnings were now being saved by human blood. "Sir, the last enemy stronghold has fallen," reported Major Julie Scott through her helmet radio. "The capital city is secure." Hayes nodded, feeling the weight of exhaustion in his bones. His power armor was dented and scorched from battle, and he had not slept in 3 days. But the mission was complete. Another world was free. The Altarian. Prime met Hayes at the landing pad outside the Capitol building. The spider-like leader's 6 arms shook as he approached the human general. Around them, the city still burned from the recent fighting. "General Hayes, I must ask you something that shames me," the Prime said through his translator. "How did your species become so skilled at warfare? My people have lived for centuries without true conflict, yet you move through battle like it is natural to you." Hayes removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face that told the story of many wars. A burn mark covered his left cheek, and his right eye was artificial, replaced after an explosion years ago. "Prime, it's simple. We never had the luxury of believing the universe was peaceful. The alien leader tilted his massive head. I do not understand. Every human child learns that space is hostile, Hayes explained. We teach them that peace is something you fight for, not something that just happens. We study every war in history, not to celebrate violence, but to prevent it through strength. The Prime's translator made sad clicking sounds. We thought such attitudes were primitive. We believed that advanced civilizations outgrew the need for military power. Hayes looked at the burning city around them. And how did that work out? For you? Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Carter was working in her mobile laboratory aboard the science vessel Darwin. She had been studying captured harvester technology for months, and each discovery was more horrible than the last. The enemy ships were not just machines, they were prisons. Admiral Morrison, she called over the secure channel to Earth. I need to show you something important. Morrison's tired face appeared on her screen. The Admiral had not left the war room under the Antarctic ice for weeks. What have you found, Lisa? Carter held up a small device that pulsed with dark energy. This is a control unit from a harvester command ship. Inside this thing are the minds of an entire Zephyrian colony. 3 million beings who were captured. 50 years ago, still alive, but they're forced to fight for their captors. Morrison's face went pale. Can we free them? I don't know yet. But sir, this changes everything. We're not just fighting an invasion force. We're fighting an army of slaves who have no choice but to serve their masters. The truth was spreading through the human fleet. Every harvester ship they destroyed contained the enslaved minds of people who had once lived free lives. It made the war both easier and harder to fight. Easier because they knew they were truly fighting evil. Harder because every victory meant destroying innocent victims. Captain Tony Martinez commanded the USS Phoenix in a massive battle near the Galactic Rim. His ship was part of a human fleet that was hunting down the largest harvester armada anyone had ever seen. The enemy had over 200 ships, each one the size of a city. Sir, enemy formation is changing, reported his tactical officer. They're trying to surround us. Martinez smiled coldly. Let them try. Fire Plan Delta. The Phoenix and its sister ships moved in a pattern that looked like a dance. They used the gravity of nearby planets to slingshot around enemy vessels, striking from angles that should have been impossible. Their weapons fired bursts of energy that could crack moons and missiles that bent space itself. The harvesters had never faced tactics like these. They were used to enemies who stood still and fought in straight lines. Human ships moved like living things, unpredictable and deadly. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the battle from her flagship, the UES Retribution. Her ship had taken heavy damage in the fighting, but her crew never stopped working. Sparks flew from damaged systems, and the air tasted of smoke and metal. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Harvester Fleet, reported communications. Officer Sarah Blake. Put it through. For the first time in the war, a Harvester commander spoke directly to humans. The voice was a mixture of electronic static and organic sounds, as if many different beings were speaking at once. Human warriors, we offer terms for ending this conflict. Surrender now, and your species will be preserved. Continue fighting, and you will be absorbed like all others. Sullivan laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Known harvester. Vessel. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Force. Here are our terms. Leave this galaxy immediately and never return. Release all enslaved minds you have captured. Do this, and we might let some of you survive. The harvester voice became angry. Impossible. We are eternal. We have conquered 1,000 galaxies. Your species will fall like all the others. We're not like all the others, Sullivan replied. We're humans. The battle that followed lasted 18 hours. Human ships used every trick in their arsenal, stealth technology that made them invisible, weapons that fired through multiple dimensions, and tactics that seemed to predict the enemy's every move. Colonel Danny Wright led a boarding party onto a damaged harvester ship. His Marines wore powered armor and carried weapons that could cut through any material. They moved through the alien vessel like avenging angels, striking at the control systems that enslaved innocent minds. "Sir, we've found the prison chambers," reported Sergeant Mike Johnson. "There are thousands of beings in here, all connected to the ship's systems." Wright looked at the horrible sight. Aliens from dozens of species floated in tanks filled with dark liquid, cables running from their heads to the ship's computers. "Get our tech teams in here. We're freeing every one of them." The rescue operation was dangerous work. Every mind they freed weakened the harvester ship, but it also made the vessel more unpredictable. Some of the freed beings had been prisoners for centuries and did not understand that they were being rescued. Dr. Patricia Hayes watched the battle reports from Earth's command center. Human forces had now destroyed over 800 harvester ships and freed millions of enslaved minds. But the cost was becoming clear. Humanity was winning the war, but they were revealing capabilities that frightened even their allies. "We're getting messages from several alien governments," reported her assistant. "They're asking about human military technology and how long we've been preparing for war." Hayes understood their concern. The aliens were learning that the young human species had been building weapons and planning for galactic war for decades. They were starting to wonder what else humanity had been hiding. "Tell them the truth," Hayes said. "We've been preparing for this war since we first looked at the stars. We studied every threat, planned for every danger, built the tools we needed to protect not just ourselves, but everyone." The war was far from over. Intelligence reports showed that the main harvester fleet was still approaching the galactic core, bringing ships and weapons that no one had ever seen before. But for the first time in the conflict, the aliens of the galaxy had hope. They had learned that Earth's warnings should have been heeded. They had seen that human military power was beyond anything they had imagined. Most importantly, they had discovered that when the darkness came, humanity would stand and fight no matter the cost. The price of their arrogance was being paid in blood and fire across 100 worlds. But there was still time to win, if they could learn to trust the species they had once dismissed as weak and foolish. The final battle began at the center of the galaxy, where ancient stars burned bright, and space itself seemed to bend under the weight of massive forces. The Harvester mothership had arrived, a construct so large it had its own gravity field. It was the size of Earth's moon. It's covered in weapons that could destroy solar systems. Captain Tony Martinez sat in the pilot seat of the U's Phoenix, humanity's most secret weapon. The ship looked ordinary from the outside, but inside, it carried something that would change the war forever. His crew of 12 volunteers knew they were not coming home from this mission. "Phoenix actual to all ships," Martinez spoke into his radio, beginning final approach to target. Around him, every surviving ship in the galaxy had gathered for this last battle. Human warships flew alongside alien vessels that had once dismissed Earth's warnings. Zephyrian crystal ships, Altarian spider fighters, Centauri blue cruisers, all united under human command for the first time in galactic history. Admiral Morrison watched from Earth's war room. Deep under the Antarctic ice, on his screens, he could see the massive enemy formation. The Harvester mothership was protected by over 1,000 smaller vessels, each one larger than humanity's biggest warship. It should have been impossible to win. "Sir, all human civilians have been moved to safe distance," reported Colonel Rachel Stone from her station. "Alien fleets are standing by for final orders." Morrison looked at the communication screen that showed Captain Martinez aboard the Phoenix. The young captain had volunteered for this mission knowing exactly what it meant. His wife and 2 children were safely on Earth, believing their father was coming home from the war. Tony Morrison spoke directly to the Phoenix's captain. "You understand what the quantum cascade will do? Everything within 100 light years will be destroyed, including your ship." Martinez's voice was steady over the radio. "I understand, sir. Tell my kids their dad helped save the galaxy." The Phoenix began its final dive toward the Harvester mothership. Around it, human and alien ships fought desperately to clear a path through the enemy defenses. The battle was like nothing anyone had ever seen. Thousands of ships, firing weapons that lit up space like a new sun. Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded the USS Vengeance in the fighting around the Phoenix. Her ship had been damaged in a dozen battles, but her crew kept fighting. All ships, Protect the Phoenix at any cost. She ordered over the fleet channel. The Vengeance and her sister ships formed a protective wall around Martinez's vessel. They took hit after hit from harvester weapons, their armor glowing red-hot from energy blasts. Ships exploded around them, but the survivors kept flying. Deep in the harvester mothership, ancient minds that had been enslaved for centuries felt something they had not experienced in ages: hope. The prison systems that held millions of captured beings began to shake as the Phoenix approached. Dr. Lisa Carter was aboard the science vessel Darwin, watching the battle through her instruments. Her readings showed something incredible happening. Inside the enemy ship, Admiral Morrison, the enslaved minds are fighting back. They can sense what we're trying to do. Morrison nodded grimly. They know we're here to free them, even if it means their death. The Phoenix broke through the final line of harvester defenses. Martinez could see the enemy mothership filling his entire view screen now. Its surface was covered with weapons that were all turning to target his small ship. He had seconds before they would fire. Thanks to all ships, he broadcast on all channels. It's been an honor serving with you. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from the bridge of the badly damaged U.S. Retribution. Half her ship was gone, but her weapons were still firing. Tony, we'll make sure they remember what you did here. The Phoenix dove straight into the heart of the harvester mothership. Martinez's crew worked frantically at their stations, preparing the quantum cascade device for activation. The weapon was based on principles that most aliens could not understand. It would unravel the basic forces that held matter together. Cascade device is armed, reported Lieutenant Sandra Kim from the engineering station, ready for activation. On your command, Captain. Martinez thought about his family on Earth. His son Billy, who was 8 years old and wanted to be a starship captain. His daughter Emma, who was 5 and loved to draw pictures of spaceships. His wife Carol, who had kissed him goodbye 6 months ago and told him to come home safe. For humanity, Martinez said quietly. For the galaxy. Activate cascade. Explosion. That followed was visible from 1,000 worlds. The Phoenix disappeared in a ball of light that grew and grew until it swallowed the entire harvester mothership. The quantum cascade spread outward, breaking apart every enemy vessel it touched. The enslaved minds trapped inside the SHLs felt a moment of pure freedom as the cascade released them from their prison. Millions of beings who had been forced to fight for their captors were finally free.
Aye.
Even if freedom meant death, when the light finally faded, the galactic core was empty. The harvester mothership was gone, reduced to atoms floating in space. The threat that had destroyed 1,000 galaxies was ended forever, but the victory came with a price that would change everything. The aliens of the galaxy had seen the true depth of human military power. Had watched Earth's warriors sacrifice everything to protect people who had once laughed at their warnings. Admiral Morrison stood before the surviving alien leaders in a meeting that was very different from the one 18 months ago. The holographic displays showed aliens who were alive only because humans had been willing to die for them. Honored council members, Morrison began, his voice heavy with exhaustion. The war is over. The harvester threat has been eliminated forever. Prime Minister Zal of the Centauri Republic was the first to speak. Her blue skin was pale, and her silver eyes showed deep shame. Admiral Morrison, we owe you an apology that can never be enough. We dismissed your warnings, called your people young and foolish. The Altarian Prime spoke next, his 6 arms trembling. We have learned a terrible lesson about the cost of arrogance. How many lives could have been saved if we had listened? Morrison looked at each alien leader in turn. The dead cannot be brought back, but the living can learn from this tragedy. Earth gave you warnings because we knew what was coming. We prepared for war because we understood that peace must be protected. The Zephyrian delegate, the same being who had laughed at human warnings, now spoke with deep respect. What would you have us do now, Admiral? How can the galaxy prevent such mistakes in the future? Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Around him, the screens showed human ships returning to their hidden bases, their terrible work finally done. Remember this day, he said finally. Remember that when Earth speaks of danger, you should listen. Remember that strength protects the innocent, and that those who ignore warnings do so at their own risk. Dr. Patricia Hayes watched the meeting from her command center. After 50 years of preparing for this war, it was finally over. But she knew that humanity's role in the galaxy had changed forever. They were no longer the young species that others could dismiss. "Ma'am, what are our orders now?" asked her assistant. Hayes looked at the star charts showing human ships scattered across the galaxy. "We go back to watching, go back to preparing. Because somewhere out there, in the dark between galaxies, other threats are waiting. And when they come, Earth will be ready." The galaxy was safe, but it would never again underestimate the small blue world that had been willing to unleash everything to protect the stars. Humanity had shown that sometimes the greatest act of love is the willingness to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Earth's warnings would never again be ignored.